talked about last time about the so-called SMP methodology that was kind of borrowed from the general competition law jurisprudence, but later introduced by the European Union in their telecoms regulatory framework. Okay, so those are about the main point of the framework directive. And besides the framework directive, there were also 4 other directives in the 2002 telecoms package. One of them, well, we call them the satellite directives of the framework directive, because as we know, framework means the framework is the main directive of that package. And there are 4 other supplementary or satellite directives. The first of them is the authorization directive. And as we have discussed last time, in the 2002 authorization directive, it greatly reduced the difficulties for someone who want to become a telco. Okay, before the introduction of the 2002 telecoms package, it's a very complicated and rather difficult review and approval procedure if someone or if a company wants to become a telco or want to operate the telecommunications business. But with the introduction of the 2002 telecoms package, it became much easier just by simply notify the regulator and anyone gets a qualification. Okay. And last time we actually achieved here. We talked about a sixth derivative. At the end of the access derivative is to establish a framework to encourage competition by stimulating the development of communication services and networks, and also to ensure that any bottlenecks in the market do not constrain the emergence of innovative service and could benefit users. So basically, access derivative is to trying to remove the bottlenecks, trying to make the access more easier. And access means to be make okay. Access is actually defined in the access directive in Article 2A. Okay, so here, access means the making available of facility and or services to an undertaking under defined conditions. So basically, access means to provide or to make available of a network or facility, but with a lot of conditions. And it covers or it includes access to network elements and associated facilities. So it's not just about networks, it's also about the related or associated facilities. And it can also be fixed and non-fixed. And it also includes the access to physical infrastructures, including buildings, ducts, and the masts. So these are the infrastructures that are necessary to install or to deploy the networks and the facilities. And access also includes access to relevant software systems, including operational support systems and include access to number translation of systems offering equivalent functionality and to fixed and mobile networks, in particular for roaming. And it also includes access to conditional access systems for digital television services, access to virtual network services. So it includes access to real networks, but also include the access to virtual networks. So basically, access defined in access directive means the make available of facilities and networks, and those networks and facilities includes all these things. And also in access directive, it defines interconnection. Okay, according to the access directive, interconnection means the physical and the logical, which means not just physical, but by technology, by the virtual linkage. The physical and the logical linkage of or linking of public communication network used by the same or different undertaking in order to allow the users of one undertaking to communicate with users of the same or another undertaking, or to access services provided by another undertaking. So, so this paragraph actually means that the illustration that we are all familiar about. So these are, like, for example, this is the networks of the telco A, and the user A, user B, users C are using the services provided by the telco A, and likewise, user D, E, F are using the services provided by telco B. So they are in, we can say they are in the or under in the networks of telco B, and ABC are in the networks of telco A. And so this paragraph actually means interconnection is to allow that the users in the network A can be linked to the users in another network. And of course, under the same network, they can communicate with each other, they can connect with each other. But then so through the functioning of the interconnection, users in network A are able to communicate with the users in network B. So this is actually the idea that is stated in the Article 2B of the Access Directive. So So after defining access and interconnection, the access derivative further stipulates a series of obligations, as we have talked about. Those obligations are mainly to be imposed on those SMP telcos. Okay, so those are obligations of interconnection, obligations of unbundling of networks. Okay, so why there's a need to impose the obligation of interconnection? Okay, as we can see from here, for example, when we look at the user A here, does user A only want to, for example, communicate with other users just on the network A? No, you want to communicate with everyone. So one of the functions of interconnection here is to allow, well, actually, virtually everyone to be able to communicate with one another and live in that jurisdiction, and ideally with everyone in the world. Okay. So this is kind of somehow about the idea of universal service, but just part of it. But besides that, there are also some competition concept in about the imposing of interconnection obligation. Okay. So the first competition concept of interconnection can be seen here is about the so-called network effect. It can be also called the network externality. Okay, so this is a theory proposed by the economist. It means an additional user of goods or service has on the value of that product to others. So when the network effect is present, the value of a product or service increase according to the number of users. So this may find not so easy to understand, but basically it means when this network becomes bigger, which means there are more users in this network, the value of this network increase. With each additional user, the value of the whole network increase. Okay, so when these networks become bigger, the value of these networks increase. And why is this a competition issue? Well, by value we means not the monetary value, but the value that should be to be considered in economics. So like one of the examples that we have raised last time, if telco A has a lot, for example, it has 10 millions of users, and network B has only